Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, arm bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covered, three-handle family gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B+ Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, fellow B+ players, welcome to the B+ Podcast. I am your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Tuesday. You know what that means. It's time for a bonus episode, and being that we are the premier and most comprehensive Australian professional wrestling podcast, it is only fitting that today we talk about the incredible weekend that we were just treated to by World Series Wrestling. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Melbourne, Perth, Sydney, no Adelaide. Still a bit bitter about that. But World Series Wrestling have held another successful tour, this time International Assault, the Elite Takeover, featuring Cody and Brandy Rhodes, Marty Scurll, Volta, a bunch of international guests. All the best Australian professional wrestlers were there as well. Well, not all of them. I mean, there were a few names that could probably be on the list when you say best that weren't there, but you get what I'm saying. World Series Wrestling is a company that we are big fans of here at the B+. They put our guys out there with the best on the international stage and let them mash it up and do their thing, and it really elevates Australian professional wrestling to that global level, and it's really good to see. Now, later in the show, I'm going to have a chat with people who attended the shows. Obviously, being in Adelaide, I did not get to attend any of the shows, but first I'm going to read out some of the results based on what they posted to their social media. So, on night 1 in Melbourne, the crowd was sold out, both nights in Melbourne, both nights sold out in the end, which is great. Show opened on night 1 with Cody coming out and filming a bit for Being the Elite. No word on what the bit is, but it'll be on Being the Elite, which is awesome. I'm really hoping for some Marty and Flip Take Australia bits as well. I mean, they released the shirt, and then the shirt became redundant on night 1 of the tour, so we'll get to that. In the very first match, Marty Scurll defeats Adam Brooks. Then we had Robbie Eagles defeat Tome Philippe, Stevie Philippe, and Bandito in a fatal 4-way match. That one looks like it would be incredible. Gods and Monsters, Big Brody Marshall and Viking Grim Matt Basso defeated Concrete Davidson and the team of Cass Stone and Nate Cross with Joey Ryan at ringside. They did manage to... Joey Ryan did get in and do the dick flip from what I've seen on the video clips and everything, so even though he wasn't able to wrestle, he was able to get involved, which is nice. Gods and Monsters being on the show surprised me because they weren't actually announced from recollection, and obviously they are Adelaide guys, so I was very happy to see them getting a bit of shine there and getting the win. Before that match, apparently Joey spoke to the crowd and Cody came out and they did a bit of a talking segment, which I guess pays off the next night. Austin Aries comes out to accept they've got a new World Series Wrestling Championship for him, and then he ends up creating a match for later in the night between Chris Basso and Slex, who is acting kind of like his protege for World Series Wrestling, and basically if Basso wins, he's going to get a championship match the next night. Flip Gordon gets a win over Jonah Rock, and then this is where my shirt became redundant because after the match, Jonah starts to beat down Flip and Marty comes in for the save. They hug when out of nowhere Brody King shows up, unannounced, beats the hell out of Flip. Marty turns on Flip and joins him and they become the new team, Villain Enterprises. Very exciting. I have to wonder how much of this is just for World Series Wrestling or how much of this is going to carry over to elsewhere. Is Brody King perhaps Elite bound. We know all the rumors out there about All Elite Wrestling. Could that have something to do with it? Could it just be a World Series Wrestling thing? It could be, absolutely. I have no idea, but I'm very excited to see where this Villain Enterprises ends up. Then we get the match between Slex and Chris Basso. Slex gets a win after a fast count by Austin Aries, who was acting as the special guest referee. Apparently it was a really good back and forth match. After the match, Slex turned on Austin Aries, and both he and Chris Basso beat down Austin Aries, and it's announced that we'll get a triple threat match the next night for the championship. Brandy Rhodes beats Erica Reed and Indy Hartwell in a triple threat match. Afterwards, Indy challenges her to a singles match. And then in the main event, Brian Cage gets a win over Walter. First time ever for that match. Sounds amazing. I've seen some clips. The crowd, unfortunately, seemed really quiet, but it looked like a really, really good match. So definitely can't wait to check that one out. Then on night two definitely looks like the better show. It opens with Cody and Joey Ryan go back and forth, with Joey ultimately challenging Cody to an IWGP US title match. So, the IWGP US title gets defended on Australian soil in Melbourne in a super stare down. Cody wins when Joey blinks after Brandy distracts him. So they fought for the championship in a staring contest. This is amazing. Can't make this up. I hope this ends up on Being the Elite, because that is fantastic. Then you get Bandito versus Stevie Felipe in a one-on-one match. Bandito gets the win, but holy crap, I really want to see that match. Then the World Series Wrestling Tag Team Championships are on the line. Concrete Davidson is joined by Flip Gordon, defending in Joey Ryan's stead, and they take on the team of Villain Enterprises. Marty Scurll and Brody King pick up the win and walk out the new World Series Wrestling Tag Team Champions. Walter defeats Jonah Rock. That's going to be incredible. These two big men, going to be a great match to watch. Brian Cage retains his X Division Championship in a match against Tom Philippe, Robbie Eagles, and Adam Brooks. Brandy Rhodes gets a win over Indy Hartwell. And then in the main event, the triple threat elimination match between Slex, Chris Basso, and Austin Aries. Aries gets pinned first by Slex, eliminating Austin Aries from the match. We're going to have a new champion. That's the way it looks. Then Slex ends up losing the second fall by being disqualified when Aries slides the title into the ring and Slex pile drives Basso onto the belt. So it's a disqualification, meaning Aries retained the title. It's a little bit confusing, but I think it works in an elimination context. I mean, it's wrestling logic for sure. It's one of those things where you kind of have to scratch your head a little to make it work, but triple threat matches are no disqualification. So you got to think that the first part of this match, when all three guys were in the ring, that was no disqualification. Anything could have gone at that point, but as soon as the elimination occurred, it now becomes a one-on-one match. One person has been eliminated, it's a one-on-one match. You would think with the disqualification that maybe... I don't know, the belt returning to its previous owner makes sense to me in a disqualification scenario in that situation. The champion's been eliminated, but in a disqualification, there's no winner. So, I don't know, it's a confusing one, but ultimately Austin Aries retains the title, and everyone is very upset. Robbie Eagles shows up, and Aries runs away through the crowd because he doesn't want to face down Robbie Eagles, obviously building to the match that they have in Sydney on Monday night. But that's all I know about these shows. Because I was not there, I can only tell you what is written online, what I've seen in clips, and all that sort of thing. So let's cut across to a conversation I had with Lyle of On the Turnbuckle. Lyle was in attendance at both shows. We also talked briefly about Glow as well, because he did go to the Glow show on Sunday. So Lyle from On the Turnbuckle joins us to talk about everything that happened at World Series Wrestling in Melbourne. All right, joining me by the magic of telephone, Lyle, how are you?
Oh, very good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. It still baffles me how we're able to do this. You're on a phone, I'm on a computer, and everyone can listen to this. It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah, that's technology, mate. I'm also driving at the same time, so multitasking.
That's dangerous.
Nah, I've got my hands free in, mate.
Do we have like a disclaimer that I'm not responsible for? You went to World Series Wrestling this weekend.
Yeah, I did. Both nights. I'm a little bit burnt out on wrestling after a triple header this weekend. So
yeah, triple header weekend. Is that a bit too much? You think 3 in 1 weekend?
After seeing the main event of the Glow show, it was well worth it. So I wasn't burnt out by the end of the night last night. But yeah, Friday night, we made the long drive down to Ferntree Gully, which is not close for myself. It's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. It was good. It was interesting with the booking. It seemed very odd. You know, you have like someone like Chris Basso playing babyface and Slex as Austin Aries' protege. If they just flip-flop that, I think their crowd would have been a lot hotter. But for a WSW show, the crowd was a little bit flat on Friday night.
Yeah, I actually noticed that. Some of the clips, like when I say I noticed it, I've only seen obviously things that have been uploaded to Facebook or Instagram and various people's little highlights that they're like, look at this cool move that happened, stuff like that. And yeah. Most of what I saw, like there was a part that I saw on Instagram with Walter chopping Brian Cage, and the crowd was just silent, and I'm like, what is going on here? Yeah,
it was like that majority of the night. Yeah, it was weird, hard to explain. Look, and there was good matches on there. The opening match, obviously, Brooksy and Marty. Nothing wrong with it. It was a good match. It just the crowd was really lacking. And the 4-way, obviously with the names that are in the 4-way, the Philippe's and Bandito and Eagles. You'd think the crowd would be super hot for that coming out of the gate, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was missing something.
Fair enough. And you said specifically having some of the Adelaide guys working face, right? So Chris Basso working face against Slex. That was something they did set that up on the last tour, though, didn't they?
Yeah. I don't think majority of the fans are there for the storyline. Or they travel over shows like that, unless it's Austin Aries and the belt, I'm assuming. But, if they just flip-flop Slex played babyface, because the crowd, he's been killing it in Melbourne for the best part of the last 18 months, maybe 2 years. So we wanted to cheer him. So maybe if they just swapped that up, that would have been really good. And then, Chris Basso, he could have done the turn babyface on Austin Aries anyway, which we all knew what Slex was going to do, but we wanted to cheer him from the get-go, which I think the crowd would have been more invested early. Right, and so if it was flipped, then potentially Basso would have gotten more cheers at the end of it after having won the crowd over by turning. Yeah, I think so, because everyone was a little bit hesitant. I'm not sure a lot of the people in the crowd have seen a lot of his work, and he's phenomenally underrated as a worker. Oh, he's one of the best workers in the country. Yeah, so, and I'd hope Melbourne companies bring him out more. Yeah. I enjoy the Celine Dion entrance, and he got up on the turnbuckle and he did the Titanic pose with the referee later in the night. It just didn't seem like the crowd, they just didn't click. They didn't get over that hump to really set the mood, which is complete contrast to night 2. Right, so night 2, the crowd was a bit hotter? Yeah, amazing. From the start to the finish. When, obviously everyone's probably seen the video of the staring contest. Yes. It sounds ridiculously stupid, but the crowd was super hot for it, super into it. So, it set the night off really well. I think the first night did have a lot of promos and a lot of stop-starts. Yeah. So, putting them guys together, they can hold the crowd in the palm of their hands. And, it was a well-worked and a well-written segment. So you talk about the staring contest. Did you see what they did in Perth to follow that up? Is it paper, scissors, rock? Yeah, they did a 2 out of 3 falls Dwayne paper, scissors match. Dwayne, that's clever. Yeah, I chuckled. I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, so obviously they've found a good way to work in with Joey Ryan and Cody obviously being injured, not able to necessarily get in there and do the things that they would want to be doing, but they still came out and they're still able to entertain the crowd, which is nice. Yeah, and he still did his lollipop, put it in Cody's mouth at the end, and I'm from night 1. He still did the dick flip, which was a conga line. Right. Actually, I wanted to ask about that. His good stuff. I wanted to ask about that because all I have on the results here are that Gods and Monsters defeated Concrete Davidson and the team of Cass Stone and Nate Cross with Joey Ryan. So what exactly happened there? Because the results don't really give too much away. Yeah, so obviously we know Joey can't work. He came out and, hey, we're going to have a replacement. And Concrete told the crowd there was 2 guys in the back. Maybe one of them can replace. So the crowd is starting to buzz. Like, we know WSW, they like to, have unannounced surprises, which they did do. But taking nothing away from the 2 PCW guys that did come out, if the crowd were expecting an international name to get that surprise. So it was a little bit flat there, but the match was fine. It was good, but it's 2 PCW guys, 2 Adelaide guys, and Concrete, and Joey on the outside. So the crowd didn't really get too invested until, Joey came in for the dick flip spot, which he passed that on to Concrete to flip everyone, and then the 2 PCW guys, turned on Concrete because he did flip them as well. So it was fine. It was really well done. It's just the crowd. Yeah, I don't think they had any investment in it.
Okay, and then we did get the bait and switch though. Obviously, people were expecting an international surprise there, but the international surprise came later. Yeah. So Brody King. I'm not too sure how many people in the crowd were aware of whether they knew him beforehand, but I think he won the crowd over really well. Just a big hoss. Obviously, people listening to this have probably seen a lot of him. He chopped the shit out of Concrete pretty badly, where it was bleeding and looks like minced meat. Yeah, so night 1 he showed up and was part of that turn where Marty Skrull turned on Flip, making my Marty and Flip Take Australia shirt redundant on night 1. Thanks a lot for that, guys.
Yeah, so it was sort of weird, so when he came out, I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna have the Marty and Flip, and then they did he turned on him, and that was fine, Villain Enterprises for the rest of the tour, and that set up the night 2, which is good. I think that in tour storylines the crowd can follow along, but they're crossing too many storylines over the tours. I think that's probably where it fell away a little bit. Right,
yeah. Stuff that carried on, like Slex being the protege carrying over. But then he turned, and he was part of the Triple Threat. Now, talk about the booking for the Triple Threat main event, because I've seen a lot of people sort of confused by this.
Okay, so it was amazingly done. Well done for it. And all of night 2 was booked really well compared to night 1.
Right.
Phenomenal. The crowd was hot from go to one, and there was nothing wrong with the whole show. Slex getting the pin on Austin Aries, amazing. The roof almost came off, because obviously we want to see title changes. That's, the selfish wrestling fan want to see title changes, because it means more, I guess. And then for them to do the DQ and the screwy finish, the crowd was not happy with that. But I thought I'm not sure how it works in a 3-way where you can get DQ'd after the champion has been eliminated. Maybe the belt should be vacant, but, pro wrestling logic aside, to keep Austin Aries' heat, it was really good heat. The live crowd did not enjoy it because they thought they were getting the title change, but hopefully someone else is lucky in the country.
Yes. Yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but hopefully by the time this comes out, people will know. Hopefully Robbie Eagles walks out with that title. That's my hope. But Slex getting the pin over Austin Aries, that's setting up a future title match regardless. So if...
Yes.
We talk about carrying across tours. If Robbie doesn't manage to be successful, which will be disappointing on my end, I think, but if he's not successful, it looks like Slex will probably be the next one to get an opportunity. And if he is successful, then Slex has a legitimate claim to a shot at Robbie Eagles on the next tour, and we could see the first Aussie main event on a WSW show. How good would that be?
That would be great. And that was really the beauty of the whole tour. A lot of the Aussie guys and girls are getting in the ring with a more international talent.
Yeah.
Which is good. Not just, it's all good to see international versus international, but, fans like myself that are going to a lot of these local shows, I really want to see our guys put on the same pedestal as these internationals, because that's how our scene is going to get better. So, yeah, it was really, really fun night. It was not a bad match there. Bandito and Stevie, everything you expect. That's going to be when the DVD comes out, it's going to be a giffer's dream.
Yeah, that's going to be one to look for.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And, the X Division match between Tome, Robbie, and Cage, even that was well done. Cage is underrated by a mile. He should be in WWE. He is that good.
Yeah, it's shocking that he's not, and I think he's one of those guys that doesn't necessarily even want to go.
No, and I think that's the beauty of the international scene or the indie scene at the minute, where the guys do have the ability to call their own shots and make their own schedules. Like, he's got a young family now. Maybe he doesn't want to be on the road for 4 or 5 days, every week, which is totally fine, which is good for us to have good wrestlers outside that WWE bubble. They're going to travel to Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. How did the women's triple threat go down? Because that looks interesting, because Brandy's one who doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience. Like, she's not known for her in-ring work, necessarily.
She held her own, and obviously Erica and Indy, I don't want to say carried her, because she's not that green. Yeah. She's just not on that independent level. Obviously she doesn't get in the ring as much, but that was a passable match. I really would have liked to see the Aussies get the win, but understand the booking. That's fine. And it led into the one-on-one match into night 2, which was really good. I thought it was good. It was enjoyable. A little bit unfortunate at the end. It looked like Indy had hurt her ankle, but rest assured, it wasn't as serious as what it looked.
Yeah, right. Because then the next day,
folded up.
Yeah, because then the next day, Indy had a big match against Tessa Blanchard there in Melbourne as well. Did you get out to Glow as well?
Yes, I did. I actually took my wife, that she's not a fan of wrestling at all, but she made the trip, and a few other friends, and I didn't go to the first Glow show.
Okay.
But I can say, I'll be definitely going. If they run a third show next year, which hopefully they do, I'll definitely be going. It was fun. The crowd are a little bit indifferent because it's not a pro wrestling crowd,
right.
A hipsters crowd. So they didn't really get into some of the early matches. I know Avery and Tari, they did a bit of Falls Count Anywhere and smashed some glasses, which was a little bit hectic for the bar staff. But but the crowd were really hot for the big spots like that. And the main event, I believe that's the best Indy Cartwell match I've ever seen. Tessa really made her look like $1 million. So yeah, that was really good. And even my wife said it was good at the end. So that's
awesome.
A win.
Yeah. Whenever it can win over non-wrestling fans, that's a big thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one on demand when it comes up. But as well, I guess the World Series Wrestling one, I shouldn't have too long to wait. I'm hoping that one comes out. I imagine they're going to ship the DVDs first, and then it should end up on Global Wrestling Network, which is where I'll end up watching it.
Yeah, they turn them around pretty quick, I think. So
yeah,
it'll be out there. There's some really good matches on night 2 that you have to watch, but there's some stuff on night 1 that are really good matches, and maybe it might transfer a little bit different onto DVD or to stream.
Yeah, I find that it is usually different live to when you're actually watching it on DVD.
Yeah.
Like even with New Horizons, when I was over there, the feeling in the crowd live compared to watching it and what match I thought was better always ends up different. Now, before I let you go, I want you to pick one match of the weekend to be your match of the weekend.
Oh, that's extremely tough. I think I'm going to say the Walter and Jonah Rock match from night 2.
Walter and Jonah Rock from night 2, yeah.
Yeah, that was just 2 big boys going at it. Hard-hitting, cringing about how stiff some of the shots were, and not just the chops. You got the forearm blows, but that was that's my pick. You definitely go out of your way to watch that match.
Awesome. All right, well, thanks for joining us, Lyle. Why don't you tell people where they can hear you on a weekly basis?
On a weekly basis, you can hear myself, Welshie, and Tony on the Turnbuckle. Go follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's all on the Turnbuckle. So, yeah, give us a like, follow along.
All right, thanks a lot, Lyle.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Lyle, for joining us. Everyone, as he mentioned there at the end, go check out On the Turnbuckle. Give them a like. They put out a podcast each week where they talk about everything. And normally they have an interview in there with an Australian talent. It's really fun. It's a really good listen. Definitely worth checking out. And of course, they are quite often my eyes and ears on the ground in Melbourne because I don't live there and a lot of really good wrestling stuff happens there. So a big thanks to On the Turnbuckle and Lyle. Over to Perth. Perth, my birthday, Sunday the 25th of November at the Vasto Club. The show starts with Cody coming out and apologizing apparently for the stare down IWGP US Championship. Joey Ryan comes out and challenges him to a Dwayne Paper Scissors challenge. A 2 out of 3 falls match. So this is rock, paper, scissors. Best 2 out of 3. Cody wins two straight falls. Cody wins and retains the IWGP US title. So we had 2 IWGP US title matches on this tour. 2 so far. And then in the real opener, Brian Cage defeats Bandito in an X Division Championship match, retaining that title. Brandy Rhodes defeats Savannah Summers, forming somewhat of an undefeated streak across this tour. So that's how they're advertising it as well on the Facebook is, now she has this undefeated streak throughout Australia. Can she stay undefeated for the whole tour when she takes on Shazza McKenzie in Sydney? I'm hoping Shazza McKenzie's going to dethrone that. Because otherwise, booking-wise, I can't see why you would have her win all of these matches, unless we're going to put Shazza over big in Penrith, which I'm a big fan of that idea anyway. Then we get Jonah Rock and Volta teaming up to defeat the Street Gang Hooligans. Amazing. Amazing. Now, I know that it would have been nicer to see the titles defended against the Street Gang Hooligans, but of course, since they already had advertised a Marty Scurll versus Damian Slater match, they weren't able to do that. So things were a bit weird with the lineup in Perth because of that. But yeah, Jonah Rock and Walter, first time teaming. I think since it was their first time teaming, it would have been nice to see the Street Gang Hooligans get that win based on the experience. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't go with that. The Street Gang Hooligans are one of the best teams in Australia, so having them beat a first-time team of Jonah Rock and Volta, especially when Jonah Rock and Volta are known more as opponents, I don't know, I think it would have been a good opportunity to give Street Gang Hooligans a rub, but it is what it is. Apparently, Jonah and Volta used the Doomsday device to get the win in that match. Then we got the villain Marty Scurll, one half of the Tag Team Champions, defeating Damian Slater. Now again, I would have liked to see Damian Slater get a win here. It's nice to see the local guys win, and of course Marty Scurll is an amazing talent and a worldwide superstar, and I can understand why he picked up the win. But thinking of the story, if you have Damian Slater get a win over Marty Scurll, now the Untouchables are in line for a title shot. I just think it would have been cool, but I understand why it didn't happen. Then we got Brody King defeating Marcus Pitt and Gavin McGavin. Same situation there. If Marcus Pitt had gotten the win, maybe you don't want Marty Scurll, maybe Brody King can take the L so that we can set up a title match. But unfortunately, Brody King gets the win there over Marcus Pitt and Gavin McGavin, 2 of the best Australia has to offer. Then in the main event, Austin Aries defeats Flip Gordon to retain the title after outsmarting the ref and Flip Gordon. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but I'm going to get on the phone to Kevin Chayat to find out exactly what went down, and I'll hit you up after with what took place in Sydney on Monday night.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
We are all WWE fans here. It's why we're here, listening to this show and spending inordinate amounts of hours consuming, complaining, and just generally eating, sleeping, and breathing professional wrestling. But if you want to take that to the next level, the only place to do it is WrestleMania 35 in the city so nice that they named it twice New York. And our new friends at All Aussie Travelers are going to help you make that happen in the best way possible. They are new to the wrestling travel game, granted, but they have over 15 years experience in sports and event tours between the US and Australia, so you know you're in good hands. They want to offer you an exclusive WrestleMania package, including return flights to the USA, 6 nights at the New Yorker Hotel right next to Times Square, And the thing that sets these packages apart are the VIP suites that AAT have secured for WrestleMania. So that's, of course, the Raw after WrestleMania. So not only are you going to go to the Hall of Fame, not only are you going to go to WrestleMania 35, but for NXT TakeOver, SmackDown Live, and the Raw immediately after WrestleMania that next night, you are going to be in an exclusive VIP suite that is not normally available to the public. But AAT, they got it locked down. They got it waiting for you with your name on it, your own private entrance, your own private toilets and bar, as well as an unparalleled view in the most comfortable seats in the house. You can experience WrestleMania weekend like never before, all at really competitive prices. So head over to All Aussie Travelers on Facebook, hit that like button, send him a message, send an email to Jack, that's JAAK, at allaussie.com.au, and let them know the B Plus sent you. 100 episodes. We made it. We made it to 100 episodes, and what better way to celebrate than by sharing Threadbox with all the B Plus players across Australia. Threadbox is a subscription service for men that brings you a personalized shopping and stylist experience for any budget. You get direct email access to a personalized stylist who builds out a style profile for you and sends you all the clothes you need. So if you need singlets this month, you're going to get singlets. If you need belts this month, you're going to get belts. You let them know and they're going to send that out to you. There are multiple packages available and you always get more worth than you pay for because Threadbox know all the best brands. CJ and I both got deliveries this month, and amongst our new threads were KSCY, Offends, Cheap Monday, NXP, and more. So you can check out our unboxing videos on the Facebook page, or if you go to threadbox.com.au, you can check out past packages that they've sent out there. We believe in Threadbox because Threadbox want to help us, you, and men everywhere look better without all the bother of having to shop. In as low a price as $40, what more can you ask for? You're going to get more value than you pay for. Just for our fans, if you put in the code the B+15 at checkout, you're going to get 15% off your first box. Head to threadbox.com.au and use the code the B+15 to get your box today. The B+ is growing, and we want you to be a part of it. So if you have an idea for a podcast, or if you want to write reviews for shows, whether that's WWE, New Japan, local shows especially, we have a big focus on Aussie Graps here. So if you go out to shows in Melbourne, we specifically need people in New Zealand, Tasmania, and Queensland. If you go out to shows in those areas, please let us know. We would love to hear from you. We would love to work with you. If you have a passion for wrestling and you want to write about anything wrestling. It can be anything. It can be listicles, it can be in-depth articles, opinion pieces, show reviews, whatever you want to do. If it's wrestling, it's fair game. Shoot us a message or send an email to theb+@unchained.media. That's theb+@unchained.media. Let us know what you want to do and we'll get back to you and we'll work something out because the B+ is growing and we want to grow the B+ family. Now, on with the show. All right, joining me to talk World Series Wrestling in Perth, once again, Kevin Chayat. How are you, Kevin?
Hi, Greg. I'm good. Thanks for having me again.
Thank you for coming on the show. So you attended last night. I mean, when we're recording this, it was last night. When people are listening, it was 2 nights ago. Perth, World Series Wrestling. On my birthday, you attended.
I did. Happy birthday for yesterday, Greg.
Thank you so much.
I mean, you couldn't be there, so I guess it wasn't really a birthday present for me to be attending World Series Wrestling. But I'm sure you had a fine birthday anyway.
I did. I had a good day with the kids and with the family and stuff. But I asked for one thing. I asked for Perth to sell out World Series Wrestling. Since they skipped Adelaide on my birthday and went to Perth, I was like, Perth, just sell it out for me. That's all you got to do. And from the looks of things, that didn't happen. I'm disappointed in your city, my friend.
Greg. From what I understand, everyone was pretty happy with the turnout.
Okay.
It was under 50 tickets in terms of what was seen as a sellout for the venue and for how they set up the venue, which should, when you're at that sort of level, it should be well past the point of making money, I think, on the ticket sales, especially with what you charge extra on front row or VIP entry. I'm sure even if it wasn't completely sold out, and I think it's very rare for any place to go into a new market for the very first time and completely sell it out, I think that Perth did a respectable showing in terms of the crowd.
So there was a good crowd though. There was only less than 50 tickets left. That's a pretty good showing.
I'd say it was probably I didn't do a head count, but I'd say it was somewhere between 350 to 400 people.
Right, yeah. See, and I'm just being particularly harsh because they skipped Adelaide. That's all. That's the only reason that I'm being so harsh, because I wanted to go. I went to on my last birthday was spent with World Series Wrestling. And I wanted this birthday to also be spent with World Series Wrestling. And when the tour was announced, I was like, yes. And then I looked at the dates and I was like, Perth? What? I don't live in Perth. What is this? What is this madness? But it looks like it was a really good show.
It was. It was a lot of fun. It was about 6 matches all up. And I thought that everyone pretty much brought it. You wouldn't say that there was anyone who felt like they were sleepwalking, despite the fact that I think a lot of the guys were on very little sleep, and they had very little sleep the next day, because I believe they had a 4 a.m. flight from Perth to Sydney this morning.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Opened up with Brian Cage and Bandito, and Bandito is a really amazing wrestler to see live. I thought it was a bit hard at times for the crowd to get into it, because you had 2 baby faces who both do a lot of impressive moves, so didn't necessarily have a strong heel face dynamic for the first match. So I thought the crowd was maybe a little colder than it could have been for that.
Yeah. From the sounds of things, when you say there's 6 matches and then it started with Brian Cage and Bandito, you're not counting Cody versus Joey Ryan as a match?
Oh, well, that wasn't a wrestling match. That was a Dwayne Paper Scissors match, which is obviously a very different form of combat, Greg.
Yeah. Yeah, a different kind of contest. But the IWGP US Championship, which is a wrestling championship, it was on the line.
I believe so. And yeah. It will be interesting to hear the results from Sydney, because I think they had some ideas as to what the third stage of their competition could be for the tour.
Well, I don't know how you top it. I mean, you have a staring contest in Melbourne, and then you have Dwayne Paper Scissors 2 out of 3 falls. Like, if it was just 1, maybe, but it was 2 out of 3 falls. They're going to have to come up with something crazy for Sydney, which is actually happening. They're probably in there doing whatever they're going to do. They're probably doing it right now as we speak. So, because they seem to open the show. But yeah, I guess also something else I wanted to touch on, Brandy Rhodes has developed somewhat of an undefeated streak.
Mm-hmm.
She went over Savannah Summers.
She did. I believe that's carrying on from her matches in Ring of Honor since she's come back from her injury. And she ended the match with Savannah with a spear, I believe, kind of playing off the idea that she's got this bionic collarbone. So her spear is doubly effective now. Yeah, it was a real pity. Obviously, I think everyone in Perth was really disappointed that Lena couldn't do the match. But hopefully we'll end up seeing that on one of next year's tours.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they went back and forth a little on Twitter about forming a tag team now that they've both had the shoulder surgery.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. And I met Cody and Brandy at the very start as I got in, and they were both just extremely lovely to talk to. And really, I thought, especially with Cody, considering that he was coming in with an injury, I thought he really did go to an effort to put on a show for the crowds in Australia.
Absolutely, which is a testament to them, but also to World Series Wrestling. I just want to point that out. Every report I've heard is that World Series Wrestling really take care of the talent. And when the company are taking care of the talent are going to be, happier and better when interacting with fans, better when in the ring and everything. Like, it's a real domino effect, So I think that speaks really well to the entire tour, that even with very little sleep, they're able to be in high spirits and stuff, and they're having a good time and doing fun stuff for being the elite. I can't imagine, these IWGP US Championship matches, they have to end up on being the elite, right?
Oh, hopefully. Hopefully we might see how Marty and Flip's tour of Australia went wrong, and what motivated Marty to turn on poor Flip.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see. I actually speculated when I was reading through the results, I speculated that perhaps this is a shift for Brody King. Maybe he's going into that elite world. Yeah. I mean, if he's going to be teaming with Marty.
Maybe Villainous Enterprises. Of course, Marty will still be with Ring of Honor for, I think, at least another 6 months into 2019. But yeah, maybe Villainous Enterprises might be something we see in an all-elite setting.
Yeah, which is exciting to think about because Brody King is one of the... And how exciting that you got to see Brody King without the announce, like he was never announced or anything.
Yeah, no,
right?
It's very cool. And we should probably talk about some of the EPW talent who were on the show and how they went.
Yes, so I actually wanted to say that looking at the results, not a single one of our guys won, and that actually upset me. I felt like in either the tag match, I felt like in the Marty Skrull versus Damian Slater match or the Brody King Marcus Pitt Gavin McGavin match, I felt like one of our guys could have got the pin there, possibly even to set up a tag title match in the future, but it didn't happen.
Yeah. So that's one of the main critiques I'd have of the show as well. I thought that it would have been good to have at least one of the local talent to go over, because then you can build to something on the next tour and you can build up the talent who are there all the time throughout the year as being seen on a more level playing field as the international fly-ins. I know it's kind of World Series Wrestling's philosophy so far. If you look at how they've been booking throughout the past 2 years since the promotion came back, you can see that generally the international talent have gone over on the Australians. And I understand the thinking behind that. Certainly with the Sydney show, I really do hope that Robbie beats that dastardly Austin Aries tonight to get some pride back for the Australian public. But I would like to see a bit more equity in how the wins and losses go over, and I think it's something which maybe holds back World Series Wrestling from really feeling like a full-time promotion rather than just a tour that comes to Australia every 4 months or so.
Yeah, because as well with the, Jonah Rock and Volta teamed up to take on the Street Gang Hooligans, and considering that Jonah Rock and Volta, look, Jonah Rock is one of Australia's biggest stars, absolutely without a doubt, and internationally he's getting there as well, and Volta is absolutely probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, sort of free agent kind of guys in wrestling, right? And to have them team up after they beat the crap out of each other the night before, and then they're going against the team Street Gang Hooligans who are, Alex Kingston's injured, but also the team at least are fresh. They haven't had the previous 2 nights of working. And I thought it would have been even that could have been a potential win, and it could have been a little bit dirty to kind of, with miscommunication or whatever between Jonah Rock and Volta. I really do think that at least one of these 3 matches could have had an Aussie win.
I thought
and had the show be improved by it.
Yeah, I did feel like maybe Street Gang Hooligans shouldn't have lost, considering that they're the EPW Tag Team Champions and this was in Perth and all of that. But when I think about it, we're also in a situation now where Jonah Rock has a tag team victory over the EPW Tag Team Champions. And obviously Walter's unlikely to come back to Australia anytime soon, but Jonah certainly has quite a few people he could call on to be a tag partner. And I think Jonah and Slex, if you think about that as a potential team, Jonah and Slex versus the Street Gang Hooligans, I think that would be a massive main event for EPW this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think they could even be setting up EPW stories there, potentially? Or they could play off it at least?
I think that if you look at what happened last night, I think rather than just pretending like it didn't matter because it was a tour show, I think it's worth thinking about going, we've got this big Australian star who has a victory over 2 of our biggest stars. This is the opportunity to do something really cool in Perth for the rest of the year.
Right. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good idea. But I guess we're kind of in agreement there that it would have been nice to see some of the local guys win. But, even just being in the ring and having these fantastic matches, that can be seen as a win, especially in the more casual fans' eyes. Like, I assume there would have been people at the show last night who don't necessarily get out to EPW shows. So overall, it's a net win.
Oh, yeah, you could definitely hear that people who would necessarily get a huge reaction at an EPW show might have gotten a bit of more of a muted reaction. You could definitely hear
Right.
a little similar to the Progress show, which was at the same venue, that there were definitely people who were coming in who wouldn't normally go to a local show. And I'd like to think that the great showings we saw from the Street Gang Hooligans, from Damien Slater, from Marcus Bitt, from Gavin McGavin, will hopefully bring people to EPW shows in the future.
Yeah.
I have to point out the tag match was really awesome. You had these two massive monsters against the underdog babyface tag team. It was just a really awesome match. And Skrull versus Slater was great as well. Just beautiful technical wrestling from two of the best technical wrestlers in the world. There was actually not that much of Marty Skrull comedy, which I know a lot of people can be a bit iffy on. I thought him and...
Right, that's what I wanted to ask, if he worked in more of the comedy stuff, or because I assumed, looking at the card, I'm like, Damian Slater is going to bring out the best parts of, well, at least for me, what I consider the best parts of Marty Skrull, because I like that chain wrestling, limb manipulation. I love all that sort of stuff, and I thought Damian Slater and Marty Skrull, they're going to put on a clinic.
Yeah, and that's how I'd describe it. It was a clinic. You were really watching two of the most smooth and gifted technical workers in the world go at it, and that was a real treat.
Oh, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that.
And the triple threat was a lot of fun. Gavin McGavin played chicken shit heel beautifully. He got the shit beaten out of him. He claimed the big boy chants were for himself, which I very
of course he did.
That's one where maybe you could have had Gavin get a sneaky win over Marcus, or Marcus get the win, and then that could set up for Untouchables versus Skrull and King on the next tour. It's again...
Yeah, that's what I thought. Again,
stuff that when we're kind of armchair booking in retrospect, we could go, well, maybe there's this that you could have gone, and I don't know how much World Series Wrestling is necessarily thinking ahead to the next tour during the tour that's going on at the moment. But it was still a lot of fun. Brody King's a very impressive worker to see live. He gave both Marcus and especially Gavin the slaps that they deserved. And Marcus gave Brody a big German suplex back in return.
Nice.
It was a really fun match. The main event, Flip Gordon versus Austin Aries. Flip Gordon was very over. I think he chose a very good ring name, because it's very easy to get a crowd to just keep going flip, 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 flip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flip was really cool to see live. He did a spot where he did like somersaults around the ring to try and throw Aries off his game. Of course, Austin Aries is a very difficult man to throw off his game, and I think for as much as Australia has decided to greatly dislike him, you can't fault his technical ability or his professionalism in the ring.
No, he's very good bell to bell.
And he won the match in a relatively sneaky fashion. There was a bit of a distraction at the end. Austin Aries disappeared. Ref didn't know where he was. Ref was looking for him. Austin kind of snuck in from underneath the ring skirt and came into a low blow flip from behind, and that led to a low blow into a roll up for the 1-2-3. And Aries also made sure to see that the ring announcer was announced that he won as a result of a back rake.
Nice.
So a lot of the match was actually built around the idea that obviously vegans have like super special finger claws or something.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. I understand that. Glaring omission from this show, one challenger for the World Series Wrestling Championship tonight in Sydney, Robbie Eagles. So he's going in to Sydney fresh. Well, at least with a day of rest.
Yeah, that's true.
And
definitely, of course, we had Jonah coming over for this show. It would have been great for Eagles or Adam Brooks to have come as well, or Slex. All these guys who don't normally get to go into, or don't get to go interstate, especially to WA, as often as we'd like to see them. And I would like to see, obviously, there's juggling schedules and finances altogether. But it would be really cool for future tours if there was more of an emphasis on bringing over the Australian stars as well interstate, because I think that puts them over as special attractions the same way that these international talents are.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just more concerned with the fact that we have a real potential for Robbie to take that title tonight. I think. Very excited to see how it plays out. I think
all of Australian wrestling has probably been behind one person, the way I think all of Australian wrestling is behind Robbie tonight.
Yeah. I'd say he'd make a great first Australian World Series Wrestling champion. But let's leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about
Thank
Perth.
you, Greg. Before we finish off, I just have to give a shout out to Wrestle Radio Australia and Todd Eastman. I acquired my tickets through him and through Wrestle Radio Australia, and I have to give a shout out to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They do great work. So every week, obviously, they do an Aussie grappler interview and talk about what's going on around the country. So shout out Wrestle Radio Australia, giving out tickets as well. Big stuff. Awesome. All right, thanks for coming on, Kevin. Greg. Big thank you to Kevin Chiat for joining us once again. And of course, a big thank you to Wrestle Radio Australia for hooking him up with those tickets. I know it was a competition, so it wasn't just a hookup, but thank you, Todd Eastman and Wrestle Radio Australia, for sending Kevin Chiat out to the Perth show so that we could have a chat with him. Mr. Mysterious was also at the Perth show, but he was at work when I wanted to record the catch-up for what happened. So Kevin Chiat was able to join us courtesy of Wrestle Radio Australia. Big thanks to everyone involved there. Now, let's move on and take a look at Sydney. As I record this, the Sydney show has just ended. I just got off the phone to Big Boy Mikey. I've got all the results here, and then I'm going to cut across to my chat with Big Boy himself. But first, let's go through the results. So the show started off just as the others did, with Cody and Joey Ryan continuing their feud. This was the third match in a series of matches, this one for the IWGP United States Championship, in a thumb war. And Cody was able to defend the title, and apparently he already has heat for trying to defend the championship in this manner. So we'll see how that plays out. Bandito gets a win over Mick Moretti. Chris Basso defeats Slex. Really good to see Basso and Slex up on the Sydney show. Marty and Brody, Villain Enterprises, defeat the Phillip Brothers. Another team traveling. Fantastic. Good to see the Phillip Brothers up in Sydney. I'm sure they impressed. Volta defeats Jack Bonza. Brian Cage defeats Flip Gordon and Jonah Rock. Brandy Rhodes defeats Shazza McKenzie. Unfortunately, Shazza didn't knock off that undefeated streak that they were advertising. As Kevin did mention, though, that is actually an extension of something that is happening elsewhere. I did not realize that, unfortunately. So, yeah, that's an extension of something happening elsewhere. So it makes sense that they wouldn't knock that off on an Australian show. And then, in the main event, the one we've all been waiting for, the one that Australia has been waiting for months since that pinfall in Sydney last time around, Robbie Eagles defeats Austin Aries one-on-one to become the World Series Wrestling Champion, the first ever Australian World Series Wrestling Champion. Big congratulations to Robbie Eagles. Big congratulations to World Series Wrestling for pulling off an amazing story with Austin Aries' title reign. It's been fantastic. It's really made that title. It's made it important. It's made World Series Wrestling seem important, which makes Robbie's win even bigger. This is a great thing for Australian professional wrestling, a great thing for Australian professional wrestlers, and a great thing for Robbie Eagles. Very excited. Now let's cut across and have a chat with Big Boy Mikey about everything that happened in Sydney. And now, joining me by phone, Big Boy Mikey, how are you?
Good, buddy, good. Tired.
Yeah, you have literally just left the show, is that right?
Yeah, literally just left the show. We just got on the motorway. We just got an hour drive home, so yeah.
Right. So
yeah, just finished the show.
There's not really any point beating around the bush. Robbie fucking Eagles.
Mate, what a fucking match. All credit to Austin Aries, who played the ultimate heel. I was just saying to Matt in the car with me, probably one of the last true heels left in the business that it just generates so much heat just with a couple of little like winks of an eye or a little whatever. But obviously the story of the night is, yeah, Robbie's the champ. Brilliant match. Probably not the match of the night for me. Probably There's one or two other contenders for match of the night, but obviously the moment of the night was obviously there. So.
Yeah, well, I was talking about it with Kevin Chayat, who went to Perth yesterday, and we were theorizing that no one there would never have been an Australian crowd so unified behind someone as they would have been behind Robbie tonight. Were we pretty accurate with that?
Absolutely. But to be fair, the entire Aussie wrestling cast had the entire crowd behind them. So obviously Robbie had the biggest support, but the entire Aussie wrestling cast, from Basso to the Philippes, maybe the Philippes probably the only ones that didn't get the full 100% support of the crowd, but obviously when they're against a guy like Marty Skull, who's obviously going to be a crowd favourite. But yeah, the entire Aussie cast were really well supported tonight, so that was good.
I mean, just having so Basso, Slex, the crowd were well into those guys, even though they don't really get up to Sydney a whole lot, do they?
No, Slex has a fair bit this year. Basso, the last time he was here, was the first World Series Wrestling last year in November with his brother Basso, and he was in the multi-tag match with like Mosh and Thrasher and that. And
right.
It was a bit of a sloppy one, which I mean, it was fun, but it was nothing in their fault. But yeah, Chris Basso, like you've been saying to me for months, he's fucking on the game. He's top of the game, man. Amazing.
Yeah. I've said it already once on this podcast, but one of the best workers in the country. So it's criminal that he's not booked everywhere, unless he doesn't want to be. I don't know. Maybe I should have a chat with him and figure that one out. But so it's good to know that the crowd were behind everyone. Robbie Eagles, first ever Australian World Series Wrestling champion, which is great. I imagine we're going to get. I mean, in Melbourne, Slex got the pin on Austin Aries, so I think Slex is going to have a pretty big claim to the throne with when the next tour rolls around. It's going to be interesting to see Robbie having to defend the title against more internationals, because World Series Wrestling are known for the internationals. It's very exciting. I mean, Robbie himself is an international now, right, with his New Japan successes?
Well, absolutely. I think I was just saying as well to Matt in the car, World Series Wrestling is getting a big PWG feel to me. Most of the card that they're getting from the US is pretty much PWG bound, like Banditos, the Flips, the Cages. And, Robbie is part of that PWG system now. So, great.
Right. And so you said it wasn't necessarily the match of the night. What other matches would you put up there?
I'm going to say it straight up, my match of the night was the opener. Mick Moretti versus Bandito was, for me, match of the night. Oh, I didn't really know what to expect with Moretti's sort of comedic style, whilst obviously still a really good wrestler, going in with probably one of the best luchadors in the world right now. Their styles just matched. Like Bandito played into some of the comedy stuff, and then Moretti played into some of the lucha stuff himself. But
yeah, well, Moretti's well versed in the lucha stuff. He trains over at Chikara. Chikara, obviously run by
exactly
Quackenbush, who has a bit of a lucha pedigree from time down in Mexico. So it's not surprising that Moretti's able to hold his own in there. I think a lot of the PWA guys would do surprisingly well in lucha style matches.
Yeah. But absolutely match of the night for me. Followed closely by Walter Bonza and also Basso Slex. Those two matches were just phenomenal. Walter and Bonza, I don't know, people were thinking it was going to be a bit of a squash. People thought that with Zack Sabre and Bonza last time, but Bonza held his own. He was chopping away at Walter, but Walter's just he's a special case in this wrestling industry, man. He's crazy.
Yeah, he has something extra. I mean, you don't want to say it's the X Factor or it, because that's a bit overplayed. He has something more than that, even.
Oh, it's something more than that. He just his entrance music alone, just you literally feel like you're about to be taken over by the Austrian bloody.
It's the entire. He just has a presence that's unlike anyone, and I think that it even comes across on the screen. I haven't seen him live. Obviously, this is his first time in Australia, and he didn't come to Adelaide, but. It's, I really feel like even through the screen, he just has a presence, But, so Bonza left with a red chest. I mean, in Melbourne, Concrete actually left with a bloody chest. But did Walter get some of his own?
Yeah, Walter got some of his own. Yeah, his chest was quite red by the end of it. The one with the most red chest at the end of the night was poor old Basso. He was cut open like a tomato. Flex was chopping him like a bloody nothing else I've ever seen. Like it was like he'd popped a blood vessel within the first minute of the match.
That's insane.
Yeah. But funny enough, like I did shoot you through the results, but Basso got the victory over Slex. So I know you said Slex got the pin for the rights to Robbie's crown probably next because he's in that frame of in the line there. But I think Basso is not too far behind him.
Yeah.
Actually.
I think we're not going to be alone in hoping that on the next couple of tours, now that we have an Australian champion, that we start to see these guys sort of even up. Because a lot of the results are internationals winning. And I'm hoping that over the next... we talked about this on the last World Series Wrestling Review podcast, you and I, all the way back when we were baby podcasters. We talked about it, like how it seems like they're doing a slow burn to build up our Aussie guys until the point I predicted there would be an Aussie tag team win this time around, and that didn't come to fruition. But we got Robbie Eagles, which is even better. And so I think that, moving forward, I think within a year, we may see an Aussie main event for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't know if it's 100% like I'll wait until World Series Wrestling officially announced it, but all but confirmed that Marty and Brody will return and Flip and Cage will return. So they both cut promos, within their stories. So the Villain Enterprise is an official World Series Wrestling thing. So
they're tag team champions. And we've already on this podcast speculated that could potentially be coming to being the Elite, like with the Marty and Flip Take Australia. Perhaps Brody King's going to show up there and sort of start a bit with Marty on the Elite, because I can't see it as... I mean, if it's just a World Series Wrestling thing, I'm happy for that, but if it's even bigger, like imagine Brody King, maybe he's headed towards All Elite Wrestling.
Right, exactly right.
Right, so there's...
People were throwing those chants out, and Marty was throwing shade on it, so...
I mean, if it happens, that's a big thing for Australia, just to think that the angle started here. But Cody also said that he's definitely for sure coming back. He said that when he was in Melbourne. Now, let's take a look at the Cody stuff. Did they continue their US title feud between Cody and Joey Ryan?
They did. So technically, I lied because Bandito and Moretti wasn't technically the opener. The opener was technically Cody versus Joey Ryan in a thumb wrestling match. It was a funny moment. Like, good on them. They're two very professional guys who have run promotions and who have been around the locker room a long time in their careers. Joey goes back all the way to the starting days of PWG, and Cody's obviously a road, so they know the business. So they, credit to them for coming on down, to still entertain the crowd, even just for 5-10 minutes. But yeah, brilliant stuff. It's just funny, just the whole, like, I've already got heat from New Japan. Like, do we really do this again? Like, those sort of little comments. And there's comedy gold, but that was fantastic.
I just think it's great. So the IWGP US Championship has been defended in a staring contest in Melbourne, a 2 out of 3 falls Dwayne Paper Scissors match in Perth.
Yeah.
And just calling it a Dwayne Paper Scissors match is gold all on its own. And then a thumb war. I really think, I wish I was on the booking committee, because the thumb war should have been a 2-minute Iron Man thumb war.
Yeah.
I think that would have put it over the top if it was a 2-minute Iron Man thumb war and it came right down to the wire. But I still think it's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. That was good stuff. What else do we have on the cards tonight? So we had the Bandito Marty Bandito.
I think the only thing we haven't touched on is Shazza and Brandy.
Yeah, it was decent for what it was. It was, it was squished in between two very high impact matches. So we had the triple threat between, post intermission, we had the triple threat between Cage, Jonah, and Flip.
Right,
which
for
was
the X Division title.
Action.
Yeah.
No, it was a non-title. It was a non-title match. Actually, it was just a regular triple threat. Yeah. But yeah, it was a really fun match. Like not match of the night, but it was really fun. Like, obviously you got the smaller Flip with the two monsters in there. doing all the high spots. Flip and Brian Cage have officially called themselves the Flippin' Machines, and they confirmed that they'll be back for the next World Series thing. So I'm feeling that we're going to get Flippin' Cage versus Marty and Brody, which will be...
Oh, that has to happen. Yeah, definitely.
That'll be really awesome to see. But yeah, unfortunately, Shazza and Brandy, like they did the best that they could. Obviously, not discrediting any talent or whatever, but they were just sandwiched in between two high impact matches. You had that triple threat, and then straight after then the world title match between Aries and Robbie. So yeah, it was just sandwiched in between an unfortunate booking. But to be fair, anywhere on that card tonight would have been hard because like all 7 matches were just top notch. 8 matches if you include the thumb war.
Yeah, we have to include the thumb war. It's a legitimate match, a legitimate contest. It was sanctioned. I don't know if it was sanctioned by IWGP, but it was sanctioned by World Series Wrestling at least. And
Sanctioned by Cody, who's probably going to get in trouble. But it's Cody Rhodes, so he'll get out of it.
I'm really looking forward to being the elite that comes out of this.
Yeah. But one little spoiler for the title match: Belle Pierce. Belle Pierce played a factor in Robbie getting the win. So it looked like Robbie was about to get counted out, or looks like Austin Aries was going to DQ himself out of the match, hitting him with the belt. And out comes Belle Pierce, which in turn had Aries do a little spot that was very interesting. Even like Matt's face, I was sitting next to me, was just like, what the fuck? He actually grabbed Belle by the throat. I'm sure she would have approved of it, and I'm sure it was just a little segment.
Well, he's a heel, yeah.
But he grabbed her by the throat in a very, let's just say, like, you wouldn't show that into any PC sort of crowd because, yeah, it was like very like physical harassment against women type thing. Like, It wasn't like a wrestling move. It was hands around the throat, like threatening type move. I was like, holy shit. And I was like, that's a little much. I'm like, holy shit. I was like, that was a little bit crazy. But yeah, and then he got out of that. Like, he went to go give her a brainbuster on the outside, but then she countered it. Robbie was able to...
Wait, so are you telling me, after all this time podcasting together, I didn't know this, are you against intergender wrestling? I thought you were a huge fan of, like, Jordan Grace and stuff.
I love intergender wrestling, but the idea of, like, a man overpowering a female, choking her, like...
The way he did. Well, I guess I haven't seen it. But just the way you're talking about it, it seems out of character for you. Out of character for you.
No, like, I love intergender wrestling. Very excited for the PWA match between Madison and Spencer next week. That's going to go off. But
right. So you're just a little worried that they didn't... Well, I got to be honest, my one criticism with World Series Wrestling, it's the only criticism I would have because I love what they do as a company, but my one criticism is the way they booked the women, which I guess we'll get in... I'll probably get into that on my solo portion of the podcast that I'm about to record after we finish talking, but the way the women are booked is probably the one criticism I have, one major criticism I have. Also, locals not getting enough wins, but I feel like we're getting there. I think that's a slow burn, and I can get behind that completely, but some of the stuff around the women in World Series Wrestling, I feel is a little questionable. Just but yeah. But other than that,
I agree with you on that point because every touring female wrestler they've had, whether it was the first time was Tessa, second time was Deanna Purrazzo, third time was Laura James, and now this was Brandy Rose. All 4 girls have clean house the women's division of Australia. Like, that's the only thing that bugs me, that girls like Shazza and Madison and that aren't.
Yeah, well, hang on. Let's talk about it as well. All of those names you mentioned are partners of male wrestlers that are on the tour. Now, I do not have a problem with that. I think that wanting to get bookings with your spouse, with your partner, is a perfectly reasonable thing. Like, you're on the road so much, you want to spend whatever time you can together. However, book an extra female talent as well. Otherwise, it looks a little suspicious. To me, it seems like you're just bringing over one woman, you're having a token women's match, and that is gross, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
yeah. But you know what?
I was willing to take all the heat myself and just do this part on the solo cast, but If you want to agree with me, let's go for it.
Yeah. For me, I don't care who the women are that comes from Australia, America, or whatever. I don't care if they're girlfriend or non-girlfriend or whatever. That part doesn't bother me.
But having only one women's match and having that.
Match, no women's title yet. This is the 4th show. Like, we'd like to see a women's title. But like you said, like, it's a very minor criticism because World Series Wrestling are, 90% there. In my opinion, they're 90% there. The action's great. Whilst the Aussies aren't getting the W's, they are getting the unofficial W's because they always, no matter who it is, from Bonza to, I'm guessing the guys in, Melbourne and Adelaide last time and Perth this time, they all do such a great job with working with these international talents. They come out looking like stars. So regardless if there's a win next to their name or not, they come out of it as a win because tours like this, like Robbie spoke about it post win, tours like World Series Wrestling are getting letting the Australian guys shine against world class talent like Moretti versus Bandito.
Yeah.
I
talked about it with Kevin Chayat as well about the Perth show. Yeah. Even though they may not win or whatever, they do come out of it as winners because it as well. A lot of casual fans, people who aren't necessarily at a PWA show, go to this, and that might pique their interest of, well, now we need to go to this other show to see these people. So it's overall a very good thing. Now, speaking of other shows. We had a bit of on our preview show, a bit of a podcast de apuestas, a gamble, a match between the two of us. This was the second, so I think we're going to have to go for a series of 3 somewhere down the line. But this time around, I picked up the W. I got the victory. You owe me a shirt because Austin Aries walked into Sydney the champion.
Yeah, I was 100% thought that Flip was going to walk in to the show. But yep, you win. You win the Apuestas match.
As soon as Marty turned on Flip in Melbourne, I was like, they're doing a different story. There's no way Flip's going into that title match. I've got this in the bag, baby. And I did. So I will see you in Sydney at the merch table, big boy. Tell the people where they can find you, man.
At bigboy_monkey86 on Twitter and Instagram. Of course, yes. You can also listen to me every Wednesday on the King of Sportscast and on Saturdays for the This Week in WWE Universe. Just want to give a quick shout out to Flip Gordon. It was the first time I got to meet Flip Gordon. It's the first time he's ever been to Australia. Holy crap, he's my favorite talent to ever talk to. I was having a solid 5-minute conversation about CMLL and All In and his stuff on being the Elite and how much he's learnt about the business of being the Elite. Like you're saying that, tonight, he took the microphone off Cage and sort of had a little mic spot. And he said, before being in the Elite, he would never have done that, and how much being the Elite has grown him in confidence. And he's phenomenal. He's such a nice guy. Like, me and Matt were just sitting there having a chat to him for 5 minutes. He's such a nice dude.
That's awesome.
But
that's one of the best. We've talked about this again. Again, this is something else that's come up on the podcast multiple times. The experience that World Series Wrestling provides with these guys, they take care of the talent, and so the talent go to the shows happy, right? Because they get good flights, they get good. I know Brian Cage gets hooked up with meal providers while he's out here and stuff for his bodybuilding and everything. Like, the staff at World Series Wrestling really take care of these guys. And so when it comes to showtime, not only are they giving it their all in the ring, but they're giving it their all at that merch desk. They're giving it their all when they're at the meet and greet and when they're meeting fans, when they're saying hi. They're just happy, happy workers, happy fans, and it's a real domino effect, and it's fantastic to see. All right, thanks so much for joining us to talk about Sydney, big boy.
No worries, mate.
So that's it. So that does it. 3 guests, 4 shows, Melbourne, Perth, Sydney. What a weekend of wrestling in Australia with World Series Wrestling. They've done it again. They continue to do it every time around. Every tour is incredible. It sounded like in Melbourne, perhaps the first night was a little bit off, but we don't know if that was the crowd, if it was the booking, what happened there. But the first night, it got off to a rocky start on this little tour. Everything came together and every show delivered, every wrestler impressed. It sounds like it was a fantastic weekend for everyone involved. Once again, big congratulations to the first ever Australian World Series Wrestling champion, Robbie Eagles. And big congratulations to World Series Wrestling on another successful tour. I hope that they continue for a long time to come. Hopefully I'll get to talk to Adrian from World Series Wrestling again before the next one and have a chat about some of the things. It sounds like some of the only concerns that those that I've talked to are having with World Series Wrestling at the moment are the lack of Australians winning over internationals, but I really do think that is something that we're building towards. Like, you got to make these guys look like, for a casual fan who comes to the show, who knows who a Cody Rhodes is, but doesn't have the first clue who a Robbie Eagles is, who a Slex is, who a Chris Basso is. You got to build these guys up so you have them have really competitive matches, and then when people come back the next time and then they win, it makes a little more sense, you know? So for the people who their first time seeing Robbie Eagles was in that tag match against Slex and Austin Aries, where he got that win when he was teaming with John Morrison, when that was the first time they saw Robbie Eagles, and then they came back this time and Robbie won the title, it made sense to them. It made sense. And so it's really logical the way they're doing that and the way they're building Australian wrestling up through that. I think it's fantastic. I'm a big fan of it. The one big gripe that I have, and that Big Boy Mikey has as well, and I'm sure other people have noticed it, is the lack of inclusivity with women and the way the women are booked kind of as a rest match sometimes, or as just a one match in there to be like, we had women's wrestling. Now, women's wrestling in Australia is better than that. You could have multiple Australian women on the one show and have it be great. And international women's wrestling is... Well, I mean, women's wrestling is popping off at the moment. When you look at WWE, the women is the hottest part of the show. Becky Lynch right now is the hottest talent in the WWE. All across the world, women's wrestling is popping off. So it's a little bit behind the times for World Series Wrestling to only be having one women's match, or to have it be, you know, put in that spot between the semi-main and the main, when really that spot should be the semi-main. It doesn't need to be a piss break match. It's a little behind the times, and we'd love to see World Series Wrestling sort of push forward with that one. But, you know, overall, it's a major gripe, but it's also a minor gripe, because overall World Series Wrestling are moving in the right direction. They're making strides, they're growing, and they're quite possibly our favorite Australian promotion, just for the fact that they are bringing over these crazy internationals and really putting on, you know, fantastic shows where our Australian guys get to shine on that international level. Very exciting stuff. And that does it for us here at the B Plus Podcast with our World Series Wrestling International Assault, the Elite Takeover review. That's another thing, World Series. Make the tour names shorter. That's a mouthful. The World Series Wrestling International Assault Elite Takeover review show is done. You can find me at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We collectively are the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter, because wrestling wouldn't fit the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. Like, share, subscribe if you like what we do. Hit that 5-star review on iTunes. And thank you so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm drag!
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list!
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy!
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two! Arm bar!
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy! Hold three! The moss-covered, three-handle family grudungle!
Mamma mia! It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, arm bar!